Happiness or meaning? Which would you pick?
Personally, I actually read the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. It's the religion of, we are ignorant of a great many things. In fact, we don't even know what the right questions are to ask. No meaning to life.
If you're looking for meaning.
Elon Musk's existential crisis.
When I was, I don't know, about 11 or 12 years old, had somewhat of an existential crisis. There just didn't seem to be any meaning in the world, like no meaning to life. And so I actually tried to read all the religious texts.
At that age?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was a voracious reader as a kid. You know, obviously read the Bible. I read the Quran, the Torah. You know, the various a bit on the Hindu side. Just trying to understand all these things. And obviously, as a 12-year-old, you're not really going to understand these things super well. But I've just
you understood it well enough to have an existential crisis when you were 11 or 12.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Well, that's a start.
Does anyone have an answer that makes sense? And then I started getting into the philosophy books, and I read quite a bit of Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, which is quite depressing to read as a kid.
Yeah, you might say that.
That's depressing as an adult, and none of them really seem to have, to me, answers that resonated, at least to me. And but then I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is really a book on philosophy disguised as humor. Mm-hmm. The point that Adams tries to make there is that we don't actually know all the answers, obviously. In fact, we don't even know what the right questions are to ask. That's where he has, if you've read the book, Earth is actually a giant computer to understand the answer to the question, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And comes up with the answer 42. And people are like, what does that mean? It says, oh, you didn't understand the thing that's going to take a computer far more powerful than Earth is to understand what question to ask.
So was that the key realization, that question?
Yeah, I would say that was a fundamental turning point, yeah.
Yeah, because that's it. So that's very interesting, because one of the things that you see constantly portrayed in redemptive hero myths across the world is that the adventure is the thing and that the search is the thing, rather than there being a final answer, as absurd as 42 might be, right? That the conclusive answer is something like deep engagement in the process. Happiness or meaning?
Well,
which would you pick?
Personally, I'd pick meaning, because for me, meaning leads to happiness, but I think that's...
Right, but the reverse isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, let's just say if you, like you'd say, contentment or something. But I think if a set of principles is likely to lead to a society thinking of themselves as happy or content, or then principles that lead to the most amount of happiness over time.
Yeah.
Not just the present.
That iteration element's important.
Yeah. Because you have to consider the happiness of future humans as well.
I think that's where the ethos actually develops, is that it's a consequence of iterated games. Right now, but the contentment issue I have a harder time with. So, reward divides into two categories. There's satiation reward and there's dopamine incentive reward, and they're not the same.
Sure.
And it looks to me, given what you've already told me about the way that you resolved your existential crisis, is that you consistently pick that's adventure reward fundamentally over contentment. Now, you like your kids and you're content with them, I presume, when you're playing, but the way that you found meaning in your life is not through contentment, it's through adventure. That seems to me the case.
Well, it's not adventure for the sake purely of adventure. I do like adventure, right. But for example, a lot of people find happiness and contentment with adventure, like climbing tall mountain, hiking along trails, exploring the wilderness and that kind of thing. And personally, I found it compelling to, say, climb Mount Everest.
You're doing it conceptually?
Conceptually and from a knowledge standpoint.
Yeah.
Knowledge Mount Everest.
Right, so it's adventure. It's adventure with a destination in mind, right? And you already described the destination. It's
the destination is
deep understanding.
Yes, to deepen our understanding of the nature of the universe. I think this is. I mean, one I guess could call it a religion. I wouldn't be upset about that. But that is my religion. For lack of a better way to describe it, is really. It's the religion of curiosity, the religion of greater enlightenment, and then if you follow that, so like that's the goal, then what falls out of that goal? What falls out of that goal is to have consciousness expand in scale and scope. I use scale and scope to say that you want we want more consciousness, and I think it's also good to have varied consciousness. So I think it's probably good to have multiple religions and have different perspectives on things. And so what falls out of that is we need to take a set of actions that increase the probability that the future will be good for humanity.
Wait, before you leave, I wanted to add my own thoughts too. I promise you I will wrap it up in 1 minute. We cannot find an answer to this question. We probably won't find our meaning of life in books, or even in other people. I believe we find our meaning of life within ourselves. Thanks for being here till the end. I really appreciate it. And if you wonder, why do I sound like a stupid robot? It's because my creator doesn't have an appealing voice, so he prefers using a stupid AI. Anyways, subscribe to the channel. There are lots of other inspirational videos in my channel. Take care of yourself, and I hope to see you soon, champ.